Here at the Key West Airport, construction workers started yesterday in a sudden round-the-clock effort to get a control tower built. Airport officials have been requesting this tower for some 3 years. But until a structure is completed, a temporary radio facility has been set up on the roof, and it contains ultra-high-frequency transmitters and receivers. Generally speaking, ultra-high-frequency radio is used only by military aircraft. In another development this morning, all of the destroyers and submarines at the huge Key West naval base suddenly pulled out, but since the Caribbean maneuver was canceled, no one is sure where they went. It is not known whether the Marines who arrived at Boca Chica Air Station last week are still there. However, an unusual amount of air traffic was reported over Key West last night, and it's believed that more military personnel arrived on the island in buses and private cars down the overseas highway during the night.
Miss, what did you think of President Kennedy's speech tonight?
I thought it was very important that we had better set a pace for these people or else. I think it's very important that we set a standard by which we stand, and I think President Kennedy's speech was very important.
You back him up then?
I do indeed. I'm a Republican, but I back him up.
We should back the president to the utmost. And blockade, we should back him in every angle, being he was elected by the people.
I thought that the president's speech was very wonderful, and I think that something should have been done even 2 years ago.
The first resolution approved the leasing to the federal government all of the unoccupied, unleased portion of the Opelika Airport, and which they will occupy in joint use along with our present tenants and the U.S. government for whatever use they may want to make of it in the present emergency. The second resolution merely covered the authorization to our staff and myself to make these decisions as they come up as long as we are in this particular emergency situation.
I, of course, supported the congressional resolution with regard to Cuba, and I think that resolution clearly anticipated action of this kind as soon as the President was satisfied that some kind of offensive buildup and offensive weapons or missile bases were being installed in Cuba. Consequently, I, of course, am supporting the President's action.
I think they'll be more or less compelled to back down. Certainly, Khrushchev can't risk a thermonuclear war because we're so much more powerful than he is. We could destroy the Soviet Union, even after they'd launched a blow against us. So I don't think he's going to risk starting a thermonuclear war.
The Civil Defense Council has done everything that they possibly can in the manner of civil defense operation in Broward County.
Are you planning any civil defense drills now?
Civil defense drills as such during a tense moment as we are going through right now are not advisable due to the possible effects it may have on the population.
These precautions should be exercised by all citizens of the area. Do not travel unnecessarily. There are indications that the Department of Defense will be using our roads and highways for transport purposes. It's important that these arterials be as free as possible from traffic congestion. This suggestion is not intended at this time to prohibit travel, but to discourage unnecessary travel. It's important that you follow the following survival requirements for individuals and families. These are shelter from radioactive fallout, a 2-week supply of canned foods and water in containers, and provisions for cooking and eating utensils and equipment should be in the home. Provision for fuel, clothing, bedding, first aid supplies, sanitation supplies and equipment, and a battery-powered radio should be in the home.
This essentially means that within this area, every pilot that operates an aircraft must file a flight plan. It must be approved by a military authority, and it must be approved through an FAA control station. All aircraft operations, civil and military, within this entire area will be closely controlled and monitored. In effect, no person may operate any civil aircraft within the area unless he is operating under a flight plan that has been approved by appropriate military authority, and that the aircraft possesses functioning navigation equipment and functioning communications equipment, and that the pilot will remain in contact at all times with the FAA air traffic control facilities.
I do not think that this will result in a nuclear war, at least at the moment. Ships may be stopped, Cuba may be even invaded, but for the moment, Khrushchev will prefer denunciation, angry words, propaganda advantage. He certainly expected action on our part, but was taken unaware, I think, by the intensity of our action. This explains the absence of actual Russian counter moves. The real test will come when we see the nature of the Soviet response. This will not be in Cuba. No one can say, even, I believe at the moment, the Kremlin, precisely where and when that will be.